So welcome all of you all for the day 2 of our journey of self-discovery course. So once again, we are very grateful to you all that you all have taken 6 precious evenings to spend and understand this wisdom of Gita. So whatever we are discussing here is based on what we have heard for so many years being in ISKCON, this wisdom of Gita. So this course has helped transform the lives of many people. So we hope and pray that this course helps all of you all also. So today, along with me, there is Arjun Priya Prabhu. So both of us will be doing this course together today. So Arjun Priya Prabhu is also a very senior devotee. He's been in this movement for many years, more than 15 years, and he has great experience in the path of bhakti. He has great knowledge of scriptures. Very wonderful devotee, very wonderful friend of mine. So we are very grateful that Arjun Priya Prabhu is also there along with all of us. So we both will be sharing this presentation together. So in yesterday's class, just a quick recap of what we did yesterday. So today's topic is, does God exist? So yesterday we saw search for happiness. So we saw primarily 4 subtopics in yesterday's session. First, we saw how are we special. So we saw the common things between humans and animals. Okay, all of y'all, I'll ask you all a question. You all can unmute and answer. So what are the common things between humans and animals? Anyone would like to answer? What did we see yesterday? You all can unmute and answer. Anyone would like to share the common things between humans and animals?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
The common things between humans and animals were eating, sleeping, defending, and
meeting or enjoyment. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, and yes, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Perfect. So the Mahabharata verse says, Ahar Nidra Bhaya Maitun. Ahar is eating, Nidra is sleeping, Bhaya is defense, fear, because of fear we defend, and then mating, Maitun. Okay, so what are the differences between humans and animals? How are human beings more special than animals? Anyone else would like to answer?
We have the free will to choose to attain God.
Yeah. So we saw 4 things, A, B, C, D. What were they? What does A stand for?
Ability for higher inquiry.
Yes, A stands for ability for higher inquiry. What does B stand for? Someone
Bliss.
else? Bliss.
B stands for bliss.
C?
Choice.
Choice. And what does D stand for?
Determination.
D is determination.
Perfect. Very good. So this is what we saw. The difference between humans and animals is ability for higher inquiry. We can access higher levels of bliss. We can access the right choices, and we can be determined to follow the right path. So then we saw relative problems and real problems. So we saw that if we want real happiness, we need to solve real problems. And if we want relative happiness, we have to solve relative problems. So what is relative problems? Anyone remembers? What are relative problems?
That is one man's food is another man's poison.
Yes, correct. So relative problem is something that is not
common to all.
Exactly, yeah. So one man's food is another man's poison. Okay, and what are real problems? What are the definition of real problems? The 3 criteria we saw for any problem to be real problem.
Common to all.
Common to all, yes.
No one wants it.
No one wants it.
Everybody gets it.
Everybody gets it. First class, full marks. Okay. So what are the problems that fit into this category of real problems?
Birth.
Yeah.
Birth. Old age.
Old age.
disease
and
death.
very good. Birth, old age, disease, death. These are real problems. We saw 3 more in addition to this. Which are they?
आध्यात्मिक क्लेश,
Adhyatmik klesh.
आदिभौतिक क्लेश,
Yeah, adibhautik.
आध्यात्मिक आदिभौतिक आदिदैविक क्लेश.
Adidevi
Yes,
klesh.
sir,
First
this
class.
Devati.
Yes.
Yes.
Misery is caused by one's own body and mind. Adhyatmik klesh. Misery is caused by
Yes.
other living entities. Adibhautik. And misery is caused by natural disturbances. Adidevi klesh. Okay, so we saw if you have to achieve real happiness, we need to solve real problems. So we discussed this, is material advancement the solution to these real problems? Can science solve death? Can science solve disease completely? Can science solve old age completely? We saw no. At best, scientific advancement can be a stopgap solution. It is not a permanent solution. So then we discussed, we are all searching for the right thing, happiness, in the wrong place, in material things. So what is the permanent solution? If we all connect back to God, who is our Supreme Father. So we saw that example of the child who was lost in the Mela, in a huge fair. The child belongs to a billionaire, father is a billionaire, it is lost in a huge gathering. So the only way the child can be happy is when the child connects back to its original father. So similarly, we are all children of God. Because we have forgotten and connection with God, there is so much suffering around. So the solution to real happiness that the Gita recommends, the Vedic scriptures recommend, is connecting back to our Supreme God. So this is where we ended yesterday's session. So now the question comes, does God exist? So that's the topic for today's discussion. So today we are going to see 5 subtopics in this session. What is the proof of the existence of God? Second, we are going to see the definition of God. Third, we are going to see this question, how to see God. Fourth, how to acquire knowledge about God. And fifth, why to put faith in scriptures. So these are 5 subtopics in today's session. So these 5 topics are very important. So please do pay attention. And as I told you all yesterday, there is no need to write elaborate notes because these videos are available. It will be available on YouTube for all of you all. Plus we'll be providing notes also to all of you all. So please just hear and understand the concepts. And if you all have any questions, you all can make note of it so that when there is a question and answer session, we can try to answer. Should we continue? Okay. So the question is, does God really exist? How many of you all believe in the existence of God? I'm sure most of you all do. Okay. So if all of you all believe in the existence of God, the question is, how many of us really have conviction that God exists? Not only on a sentimental level, but on a philosophical level, on a scientific level. One time, there was a sadhu who came to a village. And the sadhu came to the village and he told the villagers that he's going to speak on God. So all the villagers came to hear from the sadhu. So the sadhu started his talk by asking everyone, how many of you all believe in God? Everyone raised their hands. So the sadhu said, if all of you all believe in God, what is the need for me to speak? And he went away. So the villagers were thinking, we wanted to hear from the sadhu, but the sadhu has gone. So the villagers called the sadhu back again the next day. So the sadhu came again the next day and the sadhu again asked all the villagers, how many of you all believe in God? This time no one raised their hands because yesterday they all raised their hands and the sadhu went away. They couldn't hear from him. So this time no one raised their hands. So the sadhu said, if none of you all believe in God, I don't want to associate with atheists. And he went away. So the third day, again, all the villagers pleaded to the sadhu, said, please come, please come, please come. So the sadhu came And all the villagers again, the sadhu asked all the villagers again, how many of you all believe in God? And the villagers are done setting. Half of them raised their hands and half didn't raise. So the sadhu said, those who believe in God convinced the others, and he walked off. So the lesson from the story is that many of us sometimes believe in God, sometimes we don't believe in God, right? So we have faith, but then many times the faith is fluctuating. When good things are there, we have faith in God. When bad things are there, we start to lose faith in God. So how can we actually develop faith in God on a scientific basis? This is what we're going to discuss today. So for those of you all who believe in God, correct? What are the various reasons because of which you all believe in God? Can anyone suggest any reasons? Why do you believe in God? If someone asks you, what will you say? You all can either speak or you all can type it in the chat also, either way.
Because of this wonderful creation, Prabhuji.
Because
The
of the
nature, the creation, everything which is higher.
Correct. Because of the wonderful creation. Because God gives us a sense of security, gives us strength. Very good. Anything else? Why do you believe in God? What's your personal reason?
Most of the people believes in God because God fulfills their material desires.
Most of the people believe in God because God fulfills their desires. Very good. So generally, there are 4 reasons why people believe in God. Generally, the first reason is desire. Because we all have certain desires, and we know that after a certain point, on our own, we can't fulfill our desires. We need some higher strength. How much ever we endeavor, all our desires don't come to be true. So we pray to God, that higher power, so that our desires can get fulfilled. That's the first reason, desire. The second is the fear of society. Especially in India, you feel that, because everyone in society is worshipping God, so then I also need to do something. Some sort of religious connection I also need to show. The third is fear of the unknown. Right? So basically, many of us are not sure whether God exists or not, but we don't want to take a chance. If God is there, let us satisfy him. One time, one of our devotees, his friend was an atheist. Absolutely, he didn't believe in God. But then he came to become a successful dentist. So first time he established his clinic, spent like lakhs of rupees in making this clinic. So he decided to do a puja, a Satyanarayan puja. And he called this devotee friend of his. So this devotee friend asked him, you don't believe in God, why are you doing this puja? So this dentist, who was an atheist, he explained, see, I have spent lakhs of rupees on this clinic. If there is God, why to take chance? Let us satisfy him with 1,000 rupees puja. Let him also be happy, and let him allow us also to be happy. So this is called fear of the unknown. And then finally, it is because of tradition. Because our grandparents have faith in God, parents have some faith in God. So it's a matter of just tradition that we just continue. So all this is good, but all this is not very solid. So that is the reason when troubles start to come in life, our faith in God starts to shake. So in order to have solid faith, we need to have reasons that are more deep than these reasons. Okay. So anyone here who doesn't believe in God? Anyone here? You all can be honest, bold. Is anyone here who doesn't believe in God? Okay, probably no one. Okay. All of you all might have surely come across someone who doesn't believe in God. Correct? Someone or the other, your friend or someone randomly come across who don't believe in God. Can you think about what reasons people have why they don't believe in God? What are the reasons atheists give why they don't believe in God? Can anyone think about it? Why don't people have faith in God?
First
When
question,
their
have you
desires are not fulfilled, they don't believe in God.
Pardon?
When people's desire does not get fulfilled after praying for so many years, they don't believe in God.
Correct. When people's desire is not fulfilled after praying for many years, they lose faith in God. Anything else? Why do people lose faith in God?
Prabhu, some people don't have faith in God because they think it is not scientific.
Correct. They
They
think that
think
it's
they
not.
are very intellectual and they think they are very scientific and God
Yeah.
and religion and all are,
Yeah.
below
Yeah.
them. That pseudo-intellectualism is
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah.
troubles. Especially in India, there is a big section of people, they think they are highly intellectual and therefore they should not believe in God.
Yeah. So it's basically unscientific and backward to believe in God. It's more advanced and scientific to be an atheist. That's what they think. Correct. Any other reason? There is no proof of the existence of God.
Yes, no proof. They
Perf-
ask for proof.
Perfect. Okay. So generally there are three reasons why people don't believe in God. The first reason, there is no proof of the existence of God. So people will tell you, prove to me God exists, I will believe in him. That's reason one. Reason two, they will tell you, can you show me God? If God is there, show him. I want to see him, then only I will believe in him. And reason three, which I have not mentioned here, is especially when problems come in the life of people, when difficulties come, crises come in the life of people, they all start to lose faith in God. And they think, how can God, who is all good, do bad in our life? Why is there suffering when God is there? Why is there so many problems in this world? Why is coronavirus there in this world if God is still under control? So these are three reasons people give why they don't have faith in God. So in today's session, we'll be seeing the first 2 points we'll be addressing. So we'll be giving proofs for the existence of God. And second, we'll be answering this question, can we see God? What is the process to see God? We'll be answering these two questions. And the third one, why is there suffering in this world if God exists? That we will keep for day 5 when we discuss the topic, why do bad things happen to good people? So now we will discuss the proof of the existence of God. Arjun Priya Prabhu, you would like to continue?
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I'm very happy to be among all of you all. And during this, I'm sure all of you all will be from throughout India and various places. So this is a very nice course where the reasons which we will be giving now about the proof of existence of God will be quite simple. You might say, oh, they are very simple, but still they are quite logical and they will fit in our common sense. So they are very simple, but still we'll be able to see that, okay, still there's some proof. And why is it important that we have solid basis for existence of God? Because based on this knowledge or based on this conviction of knowledge of God, we can move further. Because from God comes this creation, from God comes the knowledge, from God comes our existence. So until we don't have this conviction about God being there, then we cannot attribute all these further teachings which we are going to give regarding Bhagavad Gita. So that is why we begin with this topic. So please, there is a few questions which will be there. Like, we see that we have urges in this world. Like one of the urge which is thirst. You see, this thirst is the urge. So can any one of you all give certain more urges which you might be feeling, which usually human beings and animals also feel?
Hunger. Hunger is one.
Hunger is one. Yes. urge to speak,
See, yeah,
to have,
talking.
yes, urge to have friends. So you see that these urges which are there, like hunger, thirst, and urge to have friends, urge to speak, all these urges also have a corresponding fulfillment. We feel thirsty, and nature has provided water to quench the thirst. We feel hungry, there is nature has provided us with food. Similarly, we have friends, we have relationships. So these urges are there. Similarly, another urge which is there, inherent in the human being especially, is urge of worship. We see that how this is so because we see that everyone in this world worships someone or the other. Even in those places which are completely out of touch of human civilization, like some tribes in some Africa or any other deep jungles, they also have been seen that they worship someone. They accept trees as God. Some of them may worship mountains as God. Some of them may worship elephants as God. So they see power, they see the needs being fulfilled. So there is a urge to worship. So this worship has been going on Earth planet in every civilization in different ways. So why is this urge has come? Because there is water, there is thirst, or because there is thirst, there is water. It's like mutually complementing each other. Similarly, because we have God or there is God, we have a tendency to worship. And naturally, because God is there, we tend to worship someone or the other we accept. Like next slide. We see that in some places there is some people accept great personalities as God. If not any other God, they accept. Someone may worship film stars. Someone may worship politicians. Someone may worship their own parents. So someone or the other, some of them worship nature. So this worship is a urge, and there is fulfillment for that urge. So this may seem a little simple, this thing, reason, but it has a strong point to make, that our worshipping urge is fulfilled by a person. Then next, this thing is also another reason. Next slide, please. Yeah. See, there are so many inventions in this world, and every invention has a inventor. Like you can just go through certain inventions which we'll be showing. You can just name, like there's phone. Who is the inventor? Graham Bell. So phone is invented by Alexander Graham Bell. And we have the steam engine.
Yeah, you'll have to answer.
Yeah, anyone can. Yeah. Any one of you all know is the inventor? Those who have passed out recently from their
Rudolph
college.
Diesel.
James Watt, yeah.
Diesel, James Watt. Yeah. Diesel, I think maybe diesel engine. No problem. Yeah. Then the telescope. The telescope is invented by
Galileo Galilei.
yeah. Galileo. Yeah, thank you. And the bulb.
Thomas Alva Edison.
Thomas Edison. So we see there are so many complex creations or so many complex inventions which have been done, and all of these inventions have a inventor. It has never happened that there has been something created or there has been something we invented and there is no person who has invented it. No person has created it. Like there is a story of Newton. Once Newton had a friend who was an atheist. He was a scientist, and he would not believe in God. So whenever Newton was a very strong believer in God. So he would sometimes make fun of Newton. He would say, "Where is your God? And how can there be God in such a you are a great scientist, but how can you believe in such a entity as God?" So they always have this kind of discussion. So once Newton, he made a very beautiful model of the universe, and this model he had kept in his house. And when this scientist was invited, the atheist scientist, that time this scientist asked Newton, "Oh, such a beautiful model of universe, because that was so beautifully made that whenever the pedal was turned, all the planets would respectively rotate among themselves very nicely." So he asked them, "I also would like to have such a this thing. Please tell me the person who has made this. I will get it done." Newton said, "Oh my friend, this is not done by me, or I just woke up in the morning and I found it here. It has just come by chance, just like that." So this friend he said, "No, it's impossible. How can this come by chance? It is such beautifully made. There is no possibility of chance. You don't want to tell me. It is the reason." So Newton somehow stuck to his point and said, "No, it is just come by chance. There's no creator." He said, "No, I don't think you want to tell me. That's why." So Newton asked him a question. Newton asked him, why is it becoming so difficult for you to believe that this simple model has come by chance? You believe that this whole universe, with all its variety, all its complicated balances, all such a beautiful beauty, everything is come by chance. And this simple instrument, which is not even worth few dollars, how can it come by chance? So this friend understood Newton's point. So he said, "Yeah, actually, it is more unscientific to think that everything has come by chance than thinking that there is a creator." So next slide. So actually, any creation implies a creator. It's actually very logical, and this is more acceptable to our logical sense than understanding that, oh, everything has just appeared from somewhere and some from nowhere. So that is more illogical than this. Any creation has a creator. Slide. So once there was a company, a Big Bang company. So what was the type of creation? They would just bring all the material together, and then after explosion, they would create something. So just like this, the modern day scientists, they believe that once upon a time there was a lump of matter. They say that there was a lump of matter, and this lump of matter exploded. And after explosion, everything which is there in this world, it got created. It got created gradually, but still it was an explosion. Then if someone asks them who was the person who made this explosion, for that there is some other theory. So they say that Big Bang means the creation started at a point of like infinitesimal point, and it started at some point at some space and time, and then all this creation took place. So in this way, the explanation is given by the scientists. But the fact is, Big Bang theory has no scientific proof. It is still a theory, and there are some indications which they think that it implies, because somehow they want to keep God out of picture. So if God is out of picture, then the scientists have to come up with some answers. So what is the answer given by modern scientists? Big Bang theory. And then everything comes up by chance. So this chance theory and Big Bang theory are actually just theories without any proper proof. Next slide, please. Any questions till now? Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So we'll move ahead. So we saw urge implies God, and here creation implies creator. So now next things we'll see that we see that lot of rules govern our government. Lot of rules govern this government and the rules. So we see that what is the
Prabhuji, voice is not audible.
not audible.
हाँ, एक मिनट है, तो आप एक काम करिए, किसका नेटवर्क कनेक्ट हुआ है, किसका हो,
इधर
जियो
हमारा जियो.
वेट है,
So actually government करने के लिए बोले. Continue.
Arjun, can I prove? I'll continue.
Yeah, you continue for some time.
Yeah. You get your thing. Okay, so till now we saw two proofs of the existence of God. We saw urge. Whenever there is an urge for something, there is a fulfillment of that urge. So because we have an urge to worship, naturally there has to be a person also worthy of worship. Then we saw the second proof of the existence of God is whenever there is a creation, there is a creator. Right? There is no creation that comes automatically. Even a chapati in our house, if you see a chapati, fulka chapati, even that doesn't come automatically. There is someone who has made it. If you see a painting of a rose, what do you understand? Someone has made the painting. If someone says that, the color just fell and automatically the painting came, no one will believe. So if a two-dimensional painting of a rose, someone has to make it. Similarly, if you have this artificial rose, the plastic rose, that also doesn't come automatically. Someone has to design it. Then what to speak of a real rose, which not only has color, texture, but it also has fragrance. How can this come automatically? So it doesn't come automatically. So like Albert Einstein, he said, there are two ways to see this world. One is to see that there is a miracle everywhere. God's miracles are there everywhere. Just a flower coming up in the garden is God's miracle. How can we ever create this in our scientific laboratories? We can't create it. So there are two ways to see this world. One is to see miracles everywhere, and other is to see that there are miracles nowhere. So when we see that everything in this world has a creator, we will understand that God's miracles are happening all around. So the third proof of the existence of God is rules imply rule maker. Whenever there is a rule, there is always someone who has made the rules. Just like when you drive a car, what are the rules while driving a car? Anyone would like to explain? What are the rules when you drive a car?
You must have a license.
You must have license. Very good. What else? Should not drink and drive. Correct. Very good. What else? You should be a major. You should wear seat belt.
Seat belts.
So all these rules. So when you see, so whenever there are rules, there is someone who has made the rules. Correct. So there is someone who has made the rules. So someone is making the rules and someone is seeing that the rules are being followed. Isn't it? So like if you don't carry your license, go. Or if you break the traffic signal. So this is one more rule. When you see red light, you have to stop. So if you break the traffic signal and go, what will happen? Someone will come and fine you. What does it mean? That means someone has made the rules, some government body has made the rules, and someone is seeing that the rules are being enforced in this world. Correct? So whenever there is a rule, there is a person who has made the rules. The lawmaker is there. Okay. What are the rules while going in a train? Are there rules while going in a train? You should have a ticket, whichever, if you have a first class ticket, you have to sit in first class compartment. If you have a second class ticket, you have to sit in second class compartment. So there are rules to follow when you travel in a train. So someone has made the rules. Railway department is seeing that the rules are made, rules are being followed, correct? So if you sit in a train without the proper ticket, what will happen? TC will come and collect you. They will come and fine you. One time there was a guy who was going to Krishna Janmabhoomi, Mathura. He was going in train, and he was going to Ayodhya. Now Ayodhya is like very famous. He was going to Ayodhya, Ram Janmabhoomi, but this fellow didn't have a ticket in the train. So the TC came and asked him, "Where is your ticket?" He said, "No, I don't have ticket." So the TC told him, "Then come, let us go to Krishna Janmabhoomi." What is Krishna Janmabhoomi? Jail. Krishna was born in a jail. So he said, if you don't have a ticket, let's go to the jail. So what does it mean? That means whenever there is a rule, there is someone who's made the rules and someone who's seeing that the rules are being reinforced. Similarly, in nature, there are so many rules and laws, isn't it? So law implies a lawmaker. So whatever we study in science is all laws only, correct or not? In physics, there are laws, law of reflection, law of refraction. Who made these laws? In science, we just study these laws. Who made these laws? There is law of gravity. Newton just discovered the law of gravity, but even before Newton, the law of gravity always existed. If you throw something on top, it will come down. So who has made these laws? In everywhere there is laws. Even in electrical engineering, there are laws. The electrons are attracted to the positive part of the battery. The protons are attracted to the negative part of the battery. Who has made all these laws? There is someone who has made these laws. There is law of mechanics. If you can calculate exactly the pressure in which, the force in which you hit a ball, and the gravity and the air resistance, you can exactly calculate the trajectory and where the ball will land. So these are laws of mechanics. So there is laws of mechanics, there is law of thermodynamics. There are so many laws. So whenever we see laws, what does it mean? Someone has made those laws and someone is seeing that the laws are being followed and reinforced. So just like if a traffic person, a traffic guy, a traffic policeman, he controls, he says red light stop, green light go, orange light be ready. So a traffic policeman controls the traffic of vehicles. Can you imagine all the planets are revolving around the sun for so many billions of years and there is no crash that has happened? Perfectly. Everyone is maintaining social distancing. Yes or no? All the different planets, Earth and Jupiter and all these different planets are maintaining social distancing. Just imagine if they come together to meet each other, then everything will collapse. So exactly they are revolving in that same orbit. Who is seeing that it is happening perfectly? This is the beauty of God. So God is the lawmaker. So that is the third proof. Laws imply lawmaker. The fourth proof is organization and order implies an organizer. So whenever you see something in order, you see something very organized, that means there is someone who is organizing it. Yes, just like if you go to a function and if you see in that function everything is going on very smoothly, there is someone to welcome you, there is someone to show you your seat, program starts on time, ends on time, after the program there is dinner, everything is perfectly arranged. What you will say? You will say well organized program. You don't say the program went on automatically by order. There is nothing that happens automatically. Organization means, order means organizer. There is someone who is organizing it, without which nothing happens. So similarly, in this world, there is so much organization. What is organization? Okay, to give you an example, there is a bulb in our house. Who makes this bulb? This bulb is made in a factory, correct? Some factory makes this bulb, Philip or any factory that makes this bulb. Okay. So after this factory, the bulb is made, it comes to a local store, you go and purchase it. After that, you plug it in your house. And how does you on the switch, light comes in the bulb. Now, how does light come to that bulb? There is an entire electricity department that is working around the clock. Correct? Power is being generated from some dam, and it is being transmitted to some powerhouse stored there, and from there to different grids, it is being transmitted to our house. So there is an entire organization that is working round the clock to see that light reaches our house. So when you put on the switch, the light comes. That means there is an organization involved behind it. It doesn't happen automatically. A child may think that I put on the switch, light comes automatically, but the child doesn't know that people are working around the clock to see that electricity comes. So imagine, for a little bulb to light, there's so much organization involved. See God's bulb in the form of the sun. Always on. Electricity never goes off. No complaint. So the sun doesn't say, today off for me, today break for me. No break, always on. And the power of the sun also doesn't reduce. For so many generations, for practically millennia, for time immemorial, the sun is on and the power is still on. The power of the sun doesn't reduce. So for a little bulb, there is so much intelligence involved. Now, Thomas Edison failed thousands of times and he made the bulb. Just imagine how much credit we should give to God for giving us sun every day, isn't it? At the end of every month, an electricity bill comes to our house for using the electricity. We are using the sun's energy for so many years now, but has God given us any bill? Isn't it our duty to be grateful to God for giving us this light in the form of sun? Okay, to give you another example, this is water tank. When we open our tap in our house, water comes. That means what? There is an entire PWD department, water department, that is seeing that water is being pumped to our house properly. The entire system is in place. But see the system in God's creation, the water management system. What is this? This is also a tank. This cloud is also a tank which contains gallons and gallons of water. And for generally, if water goes out of your house and if you order a tanker, the tanker will come from one place to another to your house and fill in your syntax, whatever it is. But imagine this cloud is the tank of God. It contains water, but it just flies in the air effortlessly. The wind blows and takes the cloud. And the beauty is, even if an aeroplane passes through the cloud, there is no leakage that happens. The cloud seals itself again. Isn't it a miracle of God? Isn't this the proof of the existence of God? That the clouds are floating, and even if an aeroplane passes, no leakage. So how does this water system work? Sea water, which is salty, is evaporated by the sun and clouds are formed. The wind moves these clouds and then rain comes again, in land where we can all receive this rain and maintain our lives. So this is God's system of organization. Citric acid, some kilo of citric acid is produced in a factory which requires organization. Imagine, citric acid is freely available in nature in the form of limes. Isn't it a miracle of God? Fruity, to drink one fruity, there is a whole company involved to make fruity, to pack this fruity, to send the fruity to your nearest shop, and then you go and drink fruity. But this fruity is like a bad, not even an original replica, a duplicate replica of actual mangoes. And these mangoes are God's creation, isn't it? The earth, the mud it has little fragrance, but it doesn't have taste. But from that mud, there is this mango that comes, which has beautiful taste, fragrance, and exactly at the same time, mangoes come. Isn't this a beautiful example of God's organization and God's intelligence in play? So in this way, if you actually see, in this world, there is so much organization involved. This entire world works in an organization. Systems, the cycles, seasonal cycles work perfectly. There is summer, then there is rain, then there is winter, then again there is summer. All the seasons work perfectly. So whenever we see organization, it implies an organizer. Yes, Arjun Prabhu, you are ready?
Yes, now you can hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just 1 minute. Okay. So till now we saw these proofs, and now we saw design implies a designer, organization implies a organizer, law implies a lawmaker, creation implies a creator, and fulfillment of urges from the nature. So with this, we complete the proof of existence of God. Although they are quite simple, but they are very impactful. If we understand, actually, we have to observe the world properly. Then we can see even many more wonders, which we have just given a few examples. It is said that in this world, everywhere there's a miracle, if you are able to see. And if we make a blind eye, then we can see, we will not be able to see them. So many people, when they ask, can you show me God? So many people, they have this reason, can you show me God? Correct? So can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, we saw these 5 reasons. Next slide, please. Yeah, can you show me God? This is what usually people ask. So we should know that our eyes are not even able to see many things in this world, but still we believe in them. The innumerable examples. There are many other ways to find out many other things. Like next slide. There's a theory of cause and effect. Like we never see air, but we can see the things moving because of the air. So as soon as we see things moving, we imply that there is a air which is blowing, which is making things move. And there are some next slide. When we see the puppets moving, nowadays there are not many puppet shows, but in the previous days when mobiles and gadgets were very few, these puppet shows were very popular. And in puppet shows, we see that the dolls, they keep moving, they also speak. And mostly the children in the villages, they would be very amazed. How are these dolls moving and speaking? But any intelligent man knows, or any grown-up man, he knows that there's a puppeteer behind these dolls moving. So by seeing the effect, we can imply the cause. Next slide. Like if we see a arrow which just goes past us, it is hit, then naturally we know that there was a bow and there was a bowman who had shot the arrow. So by the effect, by using our intelligence, we can imply the cause behind that theory. Similarly, next slide. So by this knowledge, it's called as theory of cause and effect, we can actually come to know that if the effect is so wonderful, if the effect of this material world is so beautiful, like we saw all this organization, we saw the laws which are governing this material world, we saw all the various designs which are there, which are like from micro level to macro level. The whole universe is running according to laws, and our body itself is running according to so many laws. So we see that this whole world will be having this effect also will be there. So when we see the beauty of this world, we can actually imply the effect, which will be an intelligent creator. Then without intelligence, we cannot see a creation. So there has to be intelligence. Just like if we see the satellites which are put in the orbit, we see the intelligence, combined intelligence of all these scientists, which is the effect, and the effect is a satellite. So just by asking this question, can we see God? We first have to answer, are we qualified to see God? Are we qualified to see Him? Just because I cannot see someone, it doesn't mean that He doesn't exist. Like you might have not seen the President of America, you might have not seen even Prime Minister of India, but still we know that He is there without us seeing. So first, before that, we have to understand that we have to have a qualification. Like just to tell a small incident, just imagine if I have a desire to see the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, then what will I have to go through? What arrangements I have to make? I have to contact his secretary, I have to explain why I want to see him, and I'm sure I will not have enough reasons, and I will not even be able to get through even to closer to him. But just imagine if I do something so valuable, if I do something for the nation, or if I do something for the humanity, by which Narendra Modi ji is impressed, and he says that I want to see this person. So then it is very, very easy. Similarly, the scriptures, they say that rather than going and challenging that, okay, I want to see God, better is we have to first qualify ourselves to see God. Because we cannot even see the mortal beings of this world who are important. How can we see such a great personality who is the creator of this whole universe, who is the father of all the living entities? Such a great person we will not be able to see just because I want to see. So you have to get the qualification to see. Next slide. So till now in this course we saw what is the proof of existence of God. So we saw these 5 reasons. So now the next thing which we want to see is what is the definition of God. Next slide. So we know that in science also and in this life, we first have to define. We have to first define something to get knowledge of that. So first you have to define who is God. Next slide. So according to some people, they say God is just light. It is effulgence. It is so great. It's the energy. That kind of definition. Some say, next slide, that God is nature, because nature is fulfilling all our desires, is working so wonderfully, and it is so great. So God is nature, and I just study nature. Some say, next slide, why you want to search God everywhere? You yourself are God. Some people claim like that. So they say you have to find God within you, or you have to become God, or you are Lord. And some of them even say such extent that everyone who is walking is God. Anyone of you have any other definition of God you want to share? These are the most popular. Some will say God is just energy. Okay, there was one question before this. We'll take this question. Why did God create human beings? So this will be answered in the course of this in this course in the future. So, and it will be answered in very great detail. So we can just wait for that. So some say God is dead. Some say God has created this world. He was not able to manage it and he is dead. He is no more. Like there was a famous philosopher. Philosopher means atheist. And he would always claim God is dead. So if God is there, you have to show me. So what he would do to preach this belief of his, that God is not there, he would hold huge gatherings. And he had become a very big star for the atheists. And he would go on the stage, he would speak about God, if he is there, why he is not coming, why he is not managing properly, what is the idea behind God, idea of God makes people lazy, and all kinds of things he would say. And then finally, he would say that if God is there now, if he really exists, then before I count 10, before I finish counting 10, he should be in front of me, or you should strike me dead. I challenge him, he would say. And then he would count 1, 2 till 10. And naturally, God would not care to strike him dead. So then he would, as if he would prove that God is not there. So in this way, he went on doing this thing. But finally, as everyone knows, everyone has to die. Everyone has to face death. So he died. And he would always write this statement, God is dead. He would always write everywhere. So he was in one way an enemy of the church. So after his death, the church wrote, Nietzsche is dead and signed by God. So this is how naturally because of death, Nietzsche was proved wrong. Next slide. So in this way, many people, they define God in different ways according to their understanding. Like you can see here that the father who is praying in Navratri, he was praying to Mother Durga. Hey Ma, he would call. And similarly, he would also want to teach his son how to pray. So he would also pray, Hey Ma. And of course, in that generation, you might know that Hema Malini. So he would think about Hema. So for father, Hema is the great goddess Durga, and his son would imagine Hema as his own favorite heroine. So in this way, people have their own different notions about God. So, Achut Gopal Prabhu, you guys define.
Yeah. So now we are seeing definition of God. So there are two definitions of God that we are going to see today. The first definition is God is the supreme source. He's the supreme source, the supreme proprietor, the supreme controller, and the supreme enjoyer. This is definition one. So if someone asks you, how do you define God? This is how you define God. Anyone who is the supreme source, the supreme proprietor, the supreme controller, and the supreme enjoyer, such a person is God. So what does supreme source mean? Like all of us, we have come from our father, correct? Our father has come from his father. Our grandfather has come from his father. Like that, we can keep tracing. When you reach a person who doesn't have anyone, it is from him everyone comes, but he doesn't have a source. Such a person is called God. So in Sanskrit, it is called Adi. He is the start. He is the original. Beyond him, there is no one else. That person is God. Second, he is the supreme proprietor. What does proprietor means? Proprietor means owner, correct? So we are all owners to some extent, correct? But then none of us can claim permanent ownership. Just like two people travel in the same train and they fight for the same seat. But after some time, the station comes and both of them get down. They continue their fighting, but the train and the seat continue on. So like this train journey for which two people are fighting for one seat, similarly life is also like a journey, correct? We may be fighting, this is my land, this is your land, we may be fighting, but then we will come and go, but the land still remains. Before Columbus discovered America, America was still there. We give credit to Columbus, but who created America? Who is the owner of America? Before Columbus put the flag there, American land was still there. So who is the owner? God is the supreme owner of everything. One time, Akbar was becoming very proud. Akbar was telling Birbal that I am great, I am supreme. So Birbal was getting frustrated with Akbar's, ego. So Birbal told Akbar, "You are great. You are so great. You are greater than Allah also." So Akbar got very angry because for Muslims, when you tell that someone is greater than Allah, it is a big sin. So Akbar said, "Can you prove it to me? Otherwise, I will kill you." So Birbal told Akbar, "You can do something that Allah can't do, that God can't do." What is that? You can throw someone away from your kingdom. God cannot do that because everything is the kingdom of God. So God is the supreme proprietor. We may come for some time, we may say that this house is mine, this land is mine, but we will come and go, but the land will still remain. So we are only caretakers. We are not the proprietors. The supreme proprietor, owner is God. The third subdivision of this definition is, first is, he's the supreme source, the supreme proprietor, the supreme controller. We all have control to some extent, but we are not supreme controllers, isn't it? Do we have control of our own digestion? No. This COVID-19, it has proved very clearly that we are not in control. The biggest of governments, the biggest of nations, they are not in control. One little virus comes and all our control goes away. Even the presidents, the chief ministers, all of them, when they are COVID positive, all control is gone. We may think we are very great controllers, but ultimately the only controller is God. He is the supreme controller. We may be tiny controllers, but we are not the supreme controllers. What is the proof? We don't even know what is our next thought going to be. We don't have even control of what our thought is going to be next. No control of our mind. So how can we claim to be supreme controller? The supreme controller is God. And then finally, God is the supreme enjoyer. We can enjoy for some time, but we can't enjoy fully. Okay, someone may say, I like gulab jamun. You may eat 1 gulab jamun. You may eat 2 gulab jamun, 3 gulab jamun, 4 gulab jamun. If someone gives you 50 gulab jamuns, can you eat it? We can't even eat that much. So even our enjoyment is very limited. We can't enjoy more than needed. If you have 50 items in front of you, how much can we eat? We can't eat anything much. If someone is very rich, a billionaire, trillionaire, how much can he eat? He will eat only 4 chapatis, not more than that. God is the supreme enjoyer. We may be little enjoyers, but God is the supreme enjoyer, and our aim in life is to cooperate with the enjoyment of God. So this is definition 1. What is definition 1? God is the, I'm sorry. So definition 1 is, God is the supreme source, the supreme proprietor, the supreme enjoyer, and the supreme controller. That's definition 1. Please remember this. Definition 2, God is Bhagavan. In Sanskrit, God is called Bhagavan. What does Bhagavan mean? Bhaga means opulences, and Van means possessor. Just like someone, you say Dhanavan. What does Dhanavan mean? One who possesses wealth. Or you say Vidyavan. One who has knowledge is called Vidyavan. Or Shaktivan or Shaktiman. One who has Shakti is called Shaktiman. So one who possesses opulences is called God. What opulences? 6 opulences in full, not in parts, in full. Anyone who has these 6 opulences in full is called God. The first opulence is wealth. So God by definition is the wealthiest. No one can be more wealthy than him. We may have Ambani, Mukesh Ambani, who's really doing well now, with this COVID period and the lockdown. Reliance Jio is like really doing the greatest. He's like become Asia's biggest, probably the third in the world or third richest in the world. But even Mukesh Ambani can't claim that he has all the wealth in the world. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they can't claim that they have all the wealth in the world. They are wealthy, but they are not the wealthiest, right? They are not the wealthiest. But God is one who is the wealthiest. All wealth belongs to him. Second, he is not only the wealthiest, but he is also the strongest. There can be no one who is more strong than him. Muhammad Ali was a famous boxer. When Muhammad Ali would come into the ring boxing match, the opponent would get scared. In one blow, Muhammad Ali would make the opponent fall off. That was Muhammad Ali's power. So when Muhammad Ali was very powerful, very young, he said, Ali the greatest. So he felt that he is greater than God. So he felt, I am greater than Allah, greater than God. Muhammad Ali the greatest. So after years later, he developed Parkinson's disease. You know what is Parkinson's disease? You lose control. We speak about control. We are controllers. Parkinson's disease is you don't have control over the movement of your hands. It's a nervous breakdown. Your hands begin to shiver. You lose control. So Muhammad Ali developed Parkinson's disease, and he was given the honor of lighting the ceremonial lamp of Olympics. But Muhammad Ali couldn't even hold that torch, fire torch. So someone had to help Muhammad Ali catch his hand, and then he lit the Olympic fire, inauguration fire. So that time he said, Muhammad Ali the greatest. I had said this before, but I want to make a correction. I want to make an addition. He said, Muhammad Ali the greatest fool. Because I was thinking that I am the strongest, but I have realized that I am not strong. So only God is the strongest. We may have strength for a very short while, but then the strength will disappear. Not only that, God is the wealthiest, the strongest, simultaneously is the most beautiful. Most beautiful. In this world, someone may be beautiful, but then beauty in this world lasts only for some time. Miss Universe of 1995 is no longer beautiful now. So beauty fades away. There are so many beautiful people who have come and gone. But God is one who is beautiful always. Past, present and future. He is always beautiful, the most beautiful. And he is also the most knowledgeable, the fifth quality. The wealthiest, the strongest. He is the most beautiful and the most knowledgeable also. This is Albert Einstein. Anyone who has knowledge becomes very attractive, correct? But God is the supreme, the most knowledgeable. There can't be anyone who is more knowledgeable than him. And then the most renounced, the fifth quality. He has to be the most famous. He has to be the most famous. You have, this is John F. Kennedy. He's no longer famous now. You had Obama, who was the president of America, but he's not there now. Now Donald Trump is there, who's quite famous in the world, but we don't know. Elections of America is coming up. We don't know whether he's going to stay. Fame in this world doesn't last long. However famous you may be, you have to leave and go, isn't it? You have Michael Jackson was so famous when he was in his play, when he used to perform, practically lakhs of people would come and see him. But then his fame didn't last long. Now, how many people speak about Michael Jackson? Hardly anyone speaks. Kapil Dev was so famous. How many people speak about him? Sachin Tendulkar, how many people speak about him? So famous people come and go, but God remains the most famous. And then finally, God is the most renounced. So he is not only attractive, he is not only beautiful, he is not only wealthiest, strongest, most famous, most knowledgeable, but he is also most renounced. Even though God has all these qualities, he is still detached and the renounced. is not attached to anything in this world. So anyone who has all these 6 qualities in full is called Bhagavan. So Parashar Muni, the father of Vyasdev, gives this definition of Bhagavan. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasha shriya jnana vairagayashchaiva sananbhaga itingana. So anyone who has these 6 qualities in full: wealth, beauty, knowledge, fame, renunciation, and there was one more, I forgot about it. So the 6 qualities, anyone who has in full, such a person is called Bhagavan. So we saw 2 definitions of God. One is source of all sources, and Bhagavan, one who possesses 6 opulences in full. Anyone who fits into these 2 definitions is called God. So who is this? We will see in session 4. So now we have seen 3 parts of today's topic. We have seen proof of the existence of God. We have seen the definition of God. We have also seen how to see God. How to see God: when we become qualified, when we have the eyes, we can actually see God. Like Arjun Priya Prabhu gave the example, to see the Prime Minister of India, you have to do something so that the Prime Minister will want to see you. Similarly, when we qualify ourselves, then we can actually see God. We need to develop a certain qualification. So now there are 2 important topics in this today's session: how to acquire knowledge about God and why to put faith in scriptures. Okay, till here, anyone has any questions? Anyone has any questions? Okay, all of you are there with us till here? Is it clear? Any confusion? Are all of you all there with us? What qualities do I need to develop to meet God? We will answer this question. Yes, we will answer this question. What qualification is required to see God? Yes, we will answer this question in day 5, day 6. And who has seen God also, we will answer it later. Yeah. So we will tell you all which qualities you need to see God, definitely. So till here, is everything clear? Is it clear? No confusions? Very clear. Okay, first class. So can we continue ahead? Okay. Arjun Priya Prabhu, you like to continue?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So how to acquire knowledge of God? So we saw that we have to first acquire qualification to know God. So before that, we have in Vedic system, there are 3 or 3 ways of knowing God, or 3 methods of knowing any knowledge actually, not just about God. So these 3 are actually mentioned in the Upanishads. One is called as Pratyaksha Praman, second is called as Anuman Praman, and the third is called Shabda Praman. So Pratyaksha Praman, next slide, means Pratyaksha, like the name itself suggests, using our senses. We have 5 senses: the eyes, the nose, the touch, the smelling and hearing. So whenever I can come across certain things through the senses, I believe in them. Like seeing is believing. I see something and I get the knowledge. Then I just like through certain instruments, I see a distant object through a telescope, the very fine item through the microscope, and I can get the smell of certain chemicals through my nose. So in this way, using our senses to get knowledge is called as Pratyaksha Praman. And the next, so this Pratyaksha Praman is very, actually this is one of the not we can't say most reliable, but it's the most popular. And right now many people believe this because we experience something and we put faith in that. It's very easy to put faith in Pratyaksha Praman, but there is a very big fault in this, which the Vedas actually define. There's a very major fault. These faults are actually 4 in number. The problem with the Pratyaksha Praman is that our senses themselves are imperfect. We know very well that how we can only see the range between Vibgyor series, between the blue and between yellow. These colors we can see, and also we can only see certain. We can hear only certain sounds, or between 22 megahertz to 20 megahertz, 20,000 hertz. So we can see like that. So imperfect senses, and the second is tendency to be illusioned, commit mistakes, and cheating propensity. So we'll see this one by one. So we see that our eyes are limited. We see that our eyes, they cannot see beyond 400 to 700 millimicrons. Our eyes, our ears, they are deaf outside the range of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Like there is one experiment which you might have done it when you are young. When you just make your tongue sour by some lemon or orange, and after that you place sugar on your tongue, then you will see that the taste, you will not be able to taste it. Or also sometimes you can just wipe your tongue dry and you taste, you will not be able to taste. If you touch hot water and then touch cold water, you will feel it more cold. So in this way, senses, they are not reliable. The capacity goes down, and also there's tendencies. It doesn't give perfect knowledge to the senses. So next, so one is limitation of senses, and second is our senses have a tendency to be illusioned. Like we see mirage, where there is no water, we see water in deserts. Here, if you see this small diagram, what can you all see? Can anyone guess? What can you all see there in this picture? If you see carefully, you will see like there's a triangle there. Right? You can see, you can make out that there's some kind of triangle, but actually the eyes are assuming a triangle there. There's no triangle at all in the picture, but still eyes are assuming the triangle because of there's a optical illusion. Next picture. You see carefully in this picture, so you'll be able to see many things. So few of the things, if you can point out.
So what can you all see in this picture?
2 old people and 2 youngsters, one musician and one more.
Correct. 2 young people playing music. So if you focus on the from further part, you'll see 2 old people facing each other. And if you focus in certain point, you'll see 2 young people just enjoying with some music and other things. So you see this, it just depends upon what we focus on. So senses are this limitation. And see this next picture also, you'll see that. You just keep looking at the picture for maybe just few seconds, then see what will happen. Yeah, you can see the certain some kind of 3 sets moving. Although there are dots are there, but none of the dots are moving actually. But for the eyes, they may feel like they are moving. So this is an illusion. So in this way, there are many numerous illusions in this world, basically. Next one. So we see that there is a tendency to commit mistake. It is that this human being means he is sure to commit mistakes. So before, the scientists would think that the brain is an instrument which is meant to cool the blood, just like a vehicle has a radiator which cools down the engine. Similarly, the blood gets cooled in the brain and then it gets circulated in the body. Later on, many years later, we know the function of the brain. The pituitary gland or master gland were considered a waste, actually useless tissue of the body. But later on, we know that this thing. We see in astronomy there are innumerable theories. There are so many theories that before people would think that the Earth is flat and the sun is revolving around the Earth, and so many things. And so this way, people would just have so many different theories and many different ideas, many conceptions, but slowly they just keep on changing. We see that science means it keeps on discovering newer and newer things. And when we discover new things, the old ideas are rejected. Just like now, theories are coming, quantum theory. Before that, there was something else. The gravitational number, which is there, it has been renumbered again and again. So in this way, a person or human beings, they commit mistakes. And fourth, next slide. Then there's a propensity to cheat. Human being, because his senses are imperfect and illusion, and there is a tendency to be illusion, naturally they commit mistakes. It is natural for a human being to commit mistakes. And once he commits mistake, to prove himself right, he cheats. Just like if I propose certain theory, to prove it right, I will have to cheat. Although we know that, okay, this is not right, but somehow or the other it has to be proven. Like, you know, that the Darwin's theory. In Darwin's theory, although Darwin proposed the theory, the later scientists, they kept on researching more and more to prove it right. And at some point, just to get some name and fame, they would create so many various models. Someone would take a jaw of a pig and would take a top of the human beings, and they would file together, spin it down. So in this way, they would make newer and newer various bones. So in this way, if you go to the old museum, many presentations, scientific presentations were later on proved to be wrong. So after committing mistakes, there is a tendency to cheat. So in this way, the Vedas explain that Pratyaksha Praman, although it is very easy to put faith on, but the problem is, because of these 4 defects, it is most unreliable also. And the next method of acquiring knowledge is guess. Guesswork means Anuman Praman. So in Anuman, what a person does is, he sees something and he just guesses what is there behind that. Just like we may see someone speaking, we may see a boy and a girl speaking, and we may just say the Anuman is what? Maybe they are boyfriend, girlfriend, or we may say this lady has lost her way and he is helping her, or we can guess something else. There are so many things to guess. Similarly, we may hear some other sound from some other room and we may guess something. So in this is called as Anuman Praman. Basically, next slide. This Darwin's theory or Big Bang theory and chance theory, all of these they come in this category, Anuman Praman. Means they just observe certain things, and based on those observations, certain theories are proposed, which are most probably not true, but they are just because of one person's ideas, which may be more convincing than others. So it's called as Anuman Praman. So it's also very difficult to be reliable on. Next slide. So there was 6 blind men who wanted to know what an elephant is. They had heard about elephant, that is a big animal called an elephant. But because we are blind, how do we know what is that elephant? How does it look like? So they wanted experience. So they went to a zoo and they got a permission to touch this elephant. So one person went and touched the stomach of the elephant. And he started telling the other friends, so this elephant is like a huge wall. Someone held onto its trunk. Oh, it's like a snake. Someone was pointing to its, was catching hold of its tusks, saying these are pointed tusks like arrows. Someone was holding the legs of the elephant and they were saying it's like a tree. Someone was holding to a tail and saying it's a rope. So in this way, all 6 of them had different experience of the elephant. So there's no possibility of blind men understanding what a elephant is, although they could touch the elephant or they would feel the elephant in various ways. So when a person who had eyes, he came there and he explained to them what an elephant looks like, then the blind man can have a possibility to understand. So this is Anuman Praman. So we saw that Pratyaksha Praman is not reliable because of 4 defects. Similarly, Anuman Praman, because it's a guesswork, it is not reliable. Next. Then the third way of getting knowledge is Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means acquiring knowledge by hearing through an authorized source. It's very important. Shabda means hearing, but hearing not from anyone, but hearing through an authorized source. Just like if a professor is an authority on maths, then hearing maths from him is a reliable way of acquiring knowledge. Similarly, just imagine one fine day, child comes or a student comes and announces in the class, tomorrow is a holiday. It is declared that tomorrow is a holiday. But how many of the students will believe that boy? But if a principal comes and says, oh children, tomorrow you need not come. Tomorrow is a holiday for all of you. So everyone will be happy and they will know that, oh, tomorrow is a holiday. So this way, from authority, if we hear, like it depends upon whom we consider authority. If we consider scientists as authority, then for us, those scientists will become an authority for us. Like we say that the news which we get these days from various channels, newspapers and other sources, we consider it as a authority. So we believe in them. But if you nowadays WhatsApp circulates so many messages, and I don't know how many of them are verified. Most of them are not verified. Like this, in the situation of COVID, initially the virus, it began that it is just spreading through touch. Then someone said no, it spreads through air, but not more than 3 meters. Someone said no, we found some patient who had gone nowhere, so it is airborne. So in this way, the various causes of virus came, then various solutions also kept on coming. But we know that all this is not reliable. Until that's why people would say only believe in those which come from WHO. So this is called as hearing from authority. This is Shabda Praman. And Vedas consider that this is the most reliable form of getting knowledge. Next slide. So now, then we come to the point, because we wanted to know or we wanted to acquire knowledge about God. So who is the authority to give us that knowledge? So then we come to we can't go and ask people on the street. Everyone will have their own answers. God is this, God is that, God is like that, God is like this. And neither can we just keep on speculating, sit on the armchair, and then keep on thinking about God. Maybe God is like that. Maybe God creates and he's like, we just keep on speculating so many things. So neither we can rely on our own mind, neither can we rely on various opinions of the common mass of people. So then the Vedanta says, it says from Shruti, from Shabda, we have to acquire knowledge. So Shabda means, which is Vedas means, they are also called as Shruti, which have to be heard. So Vedas are considered the authorized source of knowledge. That's why also they are also called as Apurusheya. Apurusheya means which are not written by men, but directly coming from God Himself. It is said that Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, the original poet, or the original personality, God, He Himself created this knowledge. So we'll discuss more about this Vedic knowledge, but we come to know that Vedas are the reliable source of knowledge. Achal Gopalpu, continue.
Yeah. So now the question is, so till now we saw the fourth point, how to acquire knowledge about God. So we saw there are three ways, Pratyaksha, Anuman and Shabda. But of all the three, Shabda Praman is the best. It is the most reliable, most safest. Just like if someone, now it is COVID period, no? So it's in the journey of self-discovery course, we are giving a lot of COVID examples. You can connect to it. So if someone comes and tells you, I have COVID vaccine, and he tells you, I will give it to you, and you ask him from where you have learnt it, he will tell you, it came in my mind. Some thought came in my mind and I made this vaccine. But I'm 100% sure it will work. Take it. You will tell him, forget it, I don't want it. Why? Because he is not the authority. So if someone tells, I have just studied on my own, I have done some speculation and I have come out with this vaccine, you will not trust him. He has to be an experienced doctor who has learned from some other person. So similarly, anything in this world, we always approach authority. Correct? To learn, to get medicine, you don't go to Tom, Dick, Harry. You go to a doctor who's authorized, only you learn from him. To become an engineer, you go to an engineering college, which is an authority. To learn astrology or astronomy, you just don't look in the sky and speculate. You go to an authority and then learn from him. Similarly, to learn about God also, we need to go to an authority. We can't rely on our own mind and senses, and we can't simply doing guesswork. I think this is so, I think this is so. It doesn't work. We have to go to the source, because we may, if we just try on our own and if we keep speculating, we may reach the wrong conclusion and we may waste our time. So now the question comes, this is the last section. In another 5 minutes, we will finish this topic and then we'll take question and answers. Why to put faith in scriptures? So someone might say, like we started the discussion, we are all very scientific people. We have come from a very scientific background. What are you talking about faith and all this? I don't believe in faith. I believe in proofs. And you're telling me now put faith in scriptures. Why should I put faith in scriptures? That's what we're going to answer now. The first thing we need to understand is that if a child wants to know who our father is, what should the child do? If the child says, I want to know who my father is. If the child says, let me do genetic testing, I will go and test all the males to see who my father is, whose DNA match. Then what will happen is, the child will spend lot of time, lot of money, and so many years will go and not sure whether the child will bump into her father or not. And probably by the time she tests who her father is, the father is dead and gone. And the purpose of the testing is wasted. She can't enjoy with her father. So what is the best way if the child wants to know who her father is? Simple. Go and ask your mother who your father is, and the mother will tell you who the father is. So you have to have faith in the mother's statement. Very simple. You will save a lot of time and energy. Why? Because the mother is the authority. Similarly, faith is needed in every part of our life. When you go to a barber to shave, especially the men when they go to shave, the head or even the beard, when you go to shave, the barber, instead of shaving like this, if he shaves like this, you are finished. isn't it? You go and sleep peacefully there because you have faith that the barber will not harm you. When you go for a surgery, you have faith, the doctors put you in coma, so there is no way you can find out what's going on. But you have faith that the doctors will do a good job. In fact, before going to a surgery, you have to sign a paper which says that whatever happens here, I am not, the hospital and the doctors are not responsible, but I am fully responsible. So you pay the doctors money for the surgery, but the responsibility is not theirs. The responsibility you have to keep for yourself. That means there also you have faith that they will not do anything wrong. Similarly, when we travel in a flight, do we ever go and check whether the pilot has license? Have you ever gone and checked? Have you ever gone and checked whether there is a terrorist sitting inside the cockpit? We have not checked. Have you checked whether there's a bomb in the plane? Not checked. When we travel in a bus, how many times have we gone and checked the license of the bus driver? How many times we have done alcohol test to find out whether he's drunk or not? We have not done. So we have faith. Without faith, nothing happens. Similarly, faith is needed in every aspect of a life. When you go to college, you need faith. When you go to a surgery, you need faith. Now, like Arjun Priya Prabhu was explaining the COVID situation, so many theories coming up. We need to have faith in someone, WHO, that what they are saying is correct. So we are having faith. So without faith, life cannot go on at all. We cannot do anything. We are all sitting in a building. We all have faith that whoever has made this building has put the right material, the right amount of cement and sand mixture. The building will not collapse. We have faith. So similarly, we need to have faith that God is our supreme father. And the Vedas, the scriptures are like a mother which direct us to who our father is. So just like we have faith in other aspects of life, we need to have faith in the scriptures also. So second point, scriptures are why the second point of why we need to put faith in scriptures. First is scriptures are like our mother, which show us who our father is, God who is our father. Second is scriptures are like an instruction manual. Just like when you buy a mobile, you get an instruction manual with it. How to use a mobile. Or when you buy a laptop, you have an instruction manual, how to use it. What you should do, what you should not do. Similarly, when this world is created, scriptures, the Vedas also come to tell us how we should deal with this world, what we should do and what we should not do, and what is the purpose of this world. The scriptures, the Vedas explain to us. That is the second point. The third is there are a lot of historical evidences that are proven in the scriptures. Just like cow dung. The Vedas always say cow dung is pure. This is Indian Vedic tradition. But the scientists, the British, when they came, they were thinking that Indians are backwards because, they use cow dung everywhere. But the Britishers didn't know that the Indians are the most advanced. Vedic civilization is the most advanced because there is nothing that is more pure than cow dung. Generally, excreta of an animal, dung of an animal is impure, but dung of a cow is the most pure. It is the most antiseptic. This the Vedas have always said, and recently the scientists also agree to it. The Vedas always say that the earth is Bhugol. Geography in Sanskrit or Hindi is called Bhugol Shastra. That means it's round. When did scientists accept the fact that the earth is round or oval? Very recently. Otherwise, they were thinking that the earth is flat, and if you go beyond a certain point, you will fall down. The Vedas always say that plants have life. But very recently, Jagdish Chandra Bose proved that the plants also are living. But the Vedas always have been saying that the plants have life. So these are historical evidences proven. Another interesting part, very recently sonography has come where you can study the movement of a child in the womb of a mother. But the Bhagavatam, the third canto of Bhagavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago, much before sonography developed, tells us very clearly, day by day, month by month, what are the various stages the child undergoes in the womb of a mother. And the final point why we should have faith in scriptures is that there are a lot of predictions in scriptures, like the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Srimad Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32 verse, explains that Lord Chaitanya will come. When was Bhagavatam written? 5,000 years back. And when did Lord Chaitanya come? 500 years ago. That means 4,500 years back, the Bhagavatam has already predicted about the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Similarly, Buddha is mentioned in Bhagavatam 1.3.24 that Buddha will come, Bhavishyati. And when did Buddha come? 2,500 years ago. But Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago. Similarly, Bhagavatam predicts, the 12th canto of Bhagavatam predicts that Chanakya will come in future. And Chanakya did come. Bhagavatam predicts that King Ashoka will come in future. King Ashoka didn't come. Similarly, the Bhavishya Puran predicts that Jesus Christ will come in future. Bhavishya Puran is written long back. It predicted that Muhammad will come and start a religion of his own. These are all predicted in the scriptures. So that is why we should have faith in scriptures. Why? Because scriptures are like a mother. Scriptures are like instruction manual. There are historical facts proven in scriptures and the predictions in scriptures. So in today's session, we saw proof of the existence of God. What are the various proofs? We saw creation urge. For every urge, there is a fulfillment of that urge. Creation implies creator. Law implies lawmaker. Organization implies organizer. And design implies designer. So we saw 5 proofs of the existence of God. We saw 2 definitions of God. He is the supreme source of all sources. And he is Bhagavan, who possesses 6 opulences. Then we saw how can God be seen? By our service, we can actually see God. And even though we can't see the cause, we can see the effects in this world. Just like we saw the theory of cause and effect. By seeing the effect, we can understand the cause. Just like when we see the fan moving, we can understand there is electricity, even though I can't see the electricity. Similarly, even though we can't see God, by seeing the effects of God in this world, we understand God exists. How to acquire knowledge about God? 3 ways: Pratyaksha, Anuman, Shabda. But the best is Shabda Praman, which is word of authority. And why we should have faith in scriptures? Because scriptures are our mother. Scriptures are like an instruction manual. There are historical facts proven in scriptures, and there are a lot of predictions in the scriptures. So we will stop our discussion for today. Any questions related to today's topic?